Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its Ukrainian proxy forces. Now, today, I want to start over in the Kursk region, the battle for the Kursk potato fields. Now, we're going to go over to the other map here. We can get a little closer. Now, I want to provide a little insight into what's happening and what you are hearing, especially in the mainstream media. Now, it's difficult to really ascertain any information about the conflict. The only reliable information that continues to stream in, well, I don't even want to say it's reliable. I would say it's reliable in terms of its continuity, in terms of its messaging, but that messaging may not be completely truthful. Now, what is being said essentially is that, for instance, in the Kursk region or in the ongoing Donbas offensive, is that the Russians continue to take horrendous casualties. Now, same goes in the Kursk region. Not only are the Russians taking reportedly horrendous casualties, but also North Koreans. I think I read in one mainstream media outlet that it was believed that up to 3,000 North Korean troops may have been killed or wounded since their ongoing deployment started, and we believe there's possibly up to 12,000 North Korean troops, or that's what is being reported by the mainstream media. Now, facts. Have we seen any dead North Korean troops? Not that we can verify. There is one piece of content, one video that shows one Asiatic male laying on the ground being circled by a drone. Now, there are other videos out there that show a dozen to 24 bodies lying on the ground. But again, we don't know who those individuals are. They could be Ukrainian troops, for all that we know. Again, understand something, and this is very, very important. If you look at the picture of the battle, you have essentially a multitude of Ukrainian brigades that are dug in the Kursk region in very flat and, for the most part, open terrain. There is not a great deal of urbanization in this area in which the Ukrainians are operating, outside of this small little border town made up of mostly single-family homes and some businesses, and that's essentially it. This is the area I'm talking about. Now, again, we're looking at this from a general perspective in terms of what the Ukrainians are dealing with. The Ukrainians are facing the Russian Air Force. Ukrainian F-16s, Ukrainian MiG-29, Su-27s are not operating over Kursk. They're not operating in eastern Ukraine. The Russians have complete air dominance over Kursk. Again, the area in which these Ukrainian troops are operating. The Russian military, at its leisure, drops GLONASS guided bombs on Ukrainian forces whenever they want. They are able to call in multiple launch rocket systems and heavy artillery upon Ukrainian forces at their leisure, whenever they want. So again, you have Ukrainian troops hunkered down in Kursk. being bombarded by the Russian Air Force with standoff precision-guided weapon systems, being engaged directly by Russian attack helicopters, and again, heavy artillery. So if this was not Russia, and this was not Ukraine, and this was just side A versus side B, and side A was hunkered down in this area, and it didn't have an air force, and it was being bombarded from the air, being bombarded with artillery, who do you reasonably believe would be taking more casualties? Of course, the answer would be side A, hunkered down in the Kursk region without the support of an air force, outnumbered, especially in terms of the use of heavy artillery. Any reasonable, rational military analyst would tell you that the force that is hunkered down in this salient, with forces to the north, east, south, and growing actually encircled to the west, would be taking more casualties. That is a fact. That is something that cannot be disputed. But yet, the mainstream media will try to make you believe that thousands of Russians are being killed and wounded per day. Again, it's based on no facts and no rationale, especially given conditions on the battlefield in terms of who has what, who has the advantage in air dominance, who is able to launch actual aerial guided bombs against targets on the ground. That is huge. Having that capability is massive for the Russians. And those bombs, those very large, heavy bombs, cause lots of casualties. There is no way for the Ukrainians that are operating in Kursk are able to seek enough cover and or shelter to prevent being killed or wounded by these guided bombs. It is simply impossible. The same goes for current operations in the Donbas. Let's go over to back to the deep state map again. This is not completely updated, but let's continue to watch what is happening. And this is Novosilka. This is an envelopment operation in which Ukrainian forces, a Ukrainian combat brigade, is being systematically destroyed by Russian troops in the Russian Air Force. You can go back and then fast forward. Here, Marevika, gone, and the envelopment operation around Novosilka continues. Further to the northeast, the former Karakova pocket. Again, the amount of Ukrainian casualties that were suffered are being hidden. They're not being talked about. All they will talk about is the waves of Russian troops that are being either killed or wounded by NATO-backed Ukrainian forces. Is that happening? Obviously, casualties are being taken by the Russians, but is it on a scale in which is being reported by the mainstream media? Let's go back here and have a look. Again, envelopment operations to the south of Karakova. This happened. This occurred. This is a Ukrainian-supported site. Here we go. Envelopment, encirclement, gone. Karakova pocket is being encircled and will also soon be gone. Kursk, again. So the strategy that the Russians are using, they are not launching waves of infantry against Ukrainian forces. These are not human wave attacks. They conduct infiltration missions with small groups of Russian special operations forces. They get into the rear. They get behind Ukrainian lines. They then start calling for fire. They then start calling for airstrike missions. And then the Russians utilize their air force and their artillery to degrade and destroy the Ukrainian units on the ground. Once those Ukrainian units have been degraded and or destroyed by Russian artillery or guided bombs, the Russians move forward. So again, these reports about mass Russian casualties are incredibly deceptive. And you have to understand what is happening, especially on the ground and in the air, in terms of who has what kind of capability. In any other war, again, remove the names of the participants and you give one side air dominance, heavy artillery dominance. The other side that does not have that capability is going to take more casualties. It is a simple fact. And then back to Kursk. Again, very difficult to ascertain what has actually happened. I continue to contend that the Russians are allowing these Ukrainian forces to maintain their positions in Kursk. And the reason they are doing that is because they fully understand that they are simply bombarding and killing off these Ukrainian units piecemeal as they continue to be deployed in Kursk. Now look, the Ukrainian military, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is not going to come out and report that. They're not going to come out and say, well, yes, we have 4 combat brigades deploying in Kursk, and day in and day out they are being shelled and or destroyed by the Russian Air Force and guided glide bombs. We are taking very heavy casualties, and we continue to inject more forces into the Kursk potato field to take more casualties, and that is what we're doing. They're not going to say that. They can't say that. What they're going to say is, we continue to defend Kursk, and the Russians and the North Koreans continue to attack, and they are taking appalling casualties day in and day out. And that's the narrative. But is it the truth? Probably not. Probably not. And that is what we are seeing. And again, at a certain point, we're going to reach a point where you will see this Ukrainian military, especially operating in the Donbas and more likely than not in Kursk and other areas, just simply melt away. And it may happen a lot quicker than many Ukrainian supporters fully understand how it could end up happening. So, as always, thank you for joining us. More to come very, very soon. Have a good day.